Hello, my name is Stephen Michael Zach, and I am the writer, director, and one of the stars of Ranger 7 the series. And welcome to the DVD commentary. I remember I wanted to start with a puppet for two reasons. One reason is because I couldn't find any actors. It was so hard to get actors to say yes to this project, not knowing what it was. And I had several actors say yes and then not show up. I had several actors. I had several people on YouTube say they wanted to take part in it and then disappeared off the face of the earth. So getting actors was very difficult. The second reason I started with a puppet and not a human being because I wanted to kind of establish the world that we were in. I wanted to establish I was aiming for a very late 70s, early 80s Tom Baker Doctor Who feel or a Croft Superstar kind of feel. Croft Superstar being something that I grew up with, and that had things such wonderful programming, such as Electro Woman and Dyna Girl, Land of the Lost, and Wonder Buggy. So that's actually a Aladdin genie puppet I got when I was on the Phantom tour. We had a week off in Disney, and I bought that puppet, and I couldn't find an actor, so I quickly grabbed that puppet and made him a fake beard and dressed him up and put a jacket on him and a helmet. Nobody knows the difference. Now this actor is Christopher McGurk, and he is not a actor, but he did such a great job. This is actually the second. We actually did retakes with him because I was he wasn't happy with the performance, and I wasn't happy with the lighting. I mean, his face was really red, like the other pilots, played by Jason Bernstein, Wildcard. So, he was living in Boston, so I said, come down from Boston, we'll do a reshoot. And when he came down, I remember because he used to be such a thin, gangly kid. When he came back from Boston, he was a little bit buffer than I had wanted Rookie to be. And but we shot it anyway. We just it still worked, and he did a great job. And he was really was enthusiastic and wanted to come back. It was very fun to work with. So, and these are some models that I built. A little Doctor Who tunnel back there. Yeah, those jackets were pretty cool. They were painter's jackets with tape and clotheslines in them, and it's an indie mogul build. Ah, the magic of fishing wire. So I wanted to create this fantasy world, and I wanted to give it It had to have kind of a cross between. I think it's one part Firefly, one part Star Trek, one part Star Wars, one part Farscape. It really was kind of like designed as a homage to all the things that I grew up with. All the cartoons like Galaxy Rangers and Transformers, and then I grew up with Star Wars and Star Trek and Farscape and Babylon 5 and all these and Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon. So it kind of has all those elements kind of woven together. And there's George Stryker there. He's a well-known YouTuber. He's actually a great filmmaker. He's does a lot of horror stuff, and he does a lot of music composing. And this is the victory. Now, if you look really closely, you can tell that the one of the pieces of the victory is actually an orange juice bottle because you can still see the oranges on the side. That was my little homage to Star Trek there. Now, there was a whole other part of that beginning where it went to Admiral's End on the bridge, and things were going wrong, and things were exploding, and they were basically attacked. And that's where in the teaser, you'll see the speech where he says, the frontier has fallen, may victory be at your side. That was actually cut out of the film. And yeah, that was actually cut because I felt that where Rookie got his was the perfect place to start the show. So this is my friend Jonathan Fluck. He plays Phineas T. Wormwood, and he's actually an actor friend of mine from New York City, an audition buddy of mine, And I immediately thought of him for this role when I decided that I was going to start. And he did such a great job, and he was so funny. As you can see in the blooper reel, he's so funny to work
Good to
with.
see you two again,
And
Alan.
this is
So,
actually
what's on your mind?
my
I'm afraid there's
one of my crew, my
another 100
storyboard
hours this
artist,
morning.
and
The frontier of New Arcadia
he
will be
does many
back
many
for
jobs here at Ranger Seven Studios. Mr. Paul
I could have
Clark.
done this.
all we have
He
is
is
12
not
details
an
today.
actor, and
Bits and
he was
pieces.
very,
Both the Rangers
very,
are
very,
this
very,
morning.
very
Were there any survivors?
worried about being too
We've picked up
stiff and
several
very
disruption suspicions from some of the
yeah, he
escape
said,
pods in the
well,
area.
if you want to
This and
replace me with
about
somebody
Belgium
else, well,
and
go
Netherlands.
ahead.
We've let those
But he
escape
did a
pods
great
to the
job, and I was
investigators.
able to pull a performance, and
Intelligence
he,
is estimating
you know,
300 casualties
it
or
was a
more.
good tone for the
According to
character.
senior commanding
Um,
officer Admiral
Again, there
Zen.
were
Admiral Zen
two or
of the
three other
Blue
guys I
Ribbon. I
wanted for
wasn't
this
aware of his
role,
strengths.
and I just could
He took over
never
just a few
get
days
them
before the attack.
to say yes.
The Commodore asked him to fill in
So
for a while
I
to
ended up
ensure
saying, "Hey, Paul, look, I'm really
and
desperate. Can you come
mission
in and do some acting?"
is our best.
And he did, and he did a great
We'll
job.
warrant
And
till a few hours, while Commander Avino
yeah,
requests him communicate his findings personally
he
once you've
did a
gotten
great
through the
job, and I can't,
Under way.
can't complain.
I'm not going anywhere, am I?
I need you to go to the moon
Well,
of
I
New
used
Texas.
part of the
Retrieve
president's
Ranger
office.
7
I
from
found a
the
picture of the
cockpit.
White House.
Alan, you can't be
I
serious.
originally
I'm
wanted
afraid
him
I am.
sitting just at a desk, and
Walking that
there's actually footage of me playing
That's
Senator
the
James
other
because
start
that's
of the
one of the
beginning.
roles I was
Now,
originally supposed to
what
play
you're about to
until I
hear
couldn't find
is
anybody to play
information, so
Matthew.
your discretion in this
So
matter
I
is respected.
ended up playing Matthew, but at first I was going to be Senator James, then I was going
About
to be
6 weeks
Furlong.
ago, our security forces
So
uncovered a damaged
this
civilian
is actually a
residence
cool shot
in
because the
Guam
sides of the
border of
walls
the
are
IRS.
actually old disk drives that I lined
On the
up,
transport, we found that it was carrying
and then
chronological
I just kind of
evidence of war.
cut and pasted and made a hallway because I didn't have a futuristic enough looking hallway.
Do we have any idea who these POWs were?
You know,
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. But Zorn,
yeah,
hello, Commander.
these are actually I actually made 12-inch action figures as models, almost as marquettes, but they were old Marvel action figures that I used to be into
The president felt that
creating my own action figures, customizing my own action figures. So
decided that
those were
following
customized action figures for this show that I just kind of threw in there because at the time I didn't even know what Furlong was really gonna, or Dacron was really gonna look like. And if you notice when they show Dacron, it's a man, and then when you see Dacron later, it's a woman. So, whoops. Um,
these are desperate times, Phineas.
yeah. So we again, not being able to find actors and having to suddenly change genders from what they were before.
United League of Alliances to readopt the Ranger Act.
Do you honestly believe that bringing back
There was more of this scene too. There was a whole thing where they implicated the president and this and that and the other thing, and they talked more about the resistance, and it just got to be too much, and the scene was just going on way too long. But I still feel that this scene is kind of goes on too long, and it's just the way I wrote it. But
Ranger 7 is our last best hope for victory.
I think I managed to cut it down enough to where you get the gist,
Vincent,
and you don't hear too much of the same information later.
just bring Ranger 7 home. The method, I leave to you.
Alan, there's
And for some reason, Jonathan liked to lean forward in his chair constantly.
makes you think he'll listen to me?
So a lot of time it just looks like he's acting to the floor.
I know how
Um,
he hurt your family, Phineas. And I am sorry. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to put aside your personal feelings for the greater good. Phineas, if I could send someone else, you know I would. But you're the only one I can trust.
if you listen to Phineas, um, when we filmed all of his stuff at this place called Music Mountain, which is a big concert kind of retreat in the woods. They have like lots of concert halls and houses. He was kind of the caretaker of the land. They were kind enough to let us use that space, which I actually set up made a giant PVC green screen that was like 10 feet tall and 10 feet wide and stretched a sheet across it. And there's George Stryker. Hi, and this is Michael Aaron Reese, who, again, I couldn't find an actor, so I asked George to play this role. And when I sent him the script, he thought I meant that little dialogue line before. So when he sent me his footage, I was like, oh, that's not the one I wanted to read for. But you know what? Thank you for doing it. I really needed somebody for that too, so I'll use that. And then I had to come up with another way of getting this character into the show. I think at one point Jamie Carroll, who does a lot of Doctor Who fan stuff and a lot of Torchwood fan stuff from England, he was going to do it, and I had asked George to do it, but he did the wrong one, which was cool. So I had to do it, but I wanted to come up with some way to hide my face, so I quickly grabbed the racing jacket and the helmet and grabbed my resonator and the sunglasses and came up with the most ridiculous, untraceable accent ever. It's kind of like Scottish, Yorkshire, little Irish in there. And if you look, you could tell that when I'm looking down, I'm actually reading the script because I didn't bother to memorize it.
Excellent.
So I'm actually reading the script.
Body's still alive. Keep me posted, Commander.
Well, that is, of course, the Emperor's ship from Star Wars. I still have it, so I pulled off the center fin, and ooh yeah, there was a lot of mistakes where I would shake the camera, but I didn't realize that I would have to shake the background. So the background's still while the person is shaking. This scene I did a couple of times. There were a lot of different changes when I was creating this. You get a better shot of the Emperor's ship there. His armor was interesting because it was made out of cardboard and a plastic box that I got at Radio Shack, and it had the plate screwed on, and then I would screw the front plate off, and there were tap lights inside to make it light up, and then the helmet was just a teen bike helmet, and for the glass I actually ended up cutting the packaging and gluing it and taping it onto the front, and then adding those little bike lights on the side. But if you look at it, it's a painter's jacket with tape again. It's made of cardboard, and on the back is a file folder, plastic wall file folder thing. It says, and the Dune creature is actually a zombie costume I bought when I was in Tennessee, and I just modified it to. And there's our hero Matthew Granger, and I just modified it to look like another creature. Yes, I remember the sand crawlers. The genius move of painting them green and then throwing them on green screens, as you'll see later, was not a good idea.
You shouldn't have come here, Professor.
And suddenly I'm Batman. I think I used several different voices for Matthew until I came up with this
Take it
one.
easy, Professor. It might take you some time to adjust to normal air.
For some reason, I just had Kevin Conroy's Batman stuck in my head.
What are these things? How did they
Sand crawlers. They carry O2 in their
Yeah, I wish I was able to make those move.
You're gonna be sick.
Better than the alternative.
Well, I'm not so sure about that.
So, what brings you to my room?
Now, if you notice, I did a lot of zooming because I was only able to shoot 2 angles. I mean, we literally started shooting
No matter.
early in the morning, and we didn't even take a break. And by the time we turned around, it was like 7 o'clock at night. We hadn't eaten. We hadn't really taken any breaks or pauses. It was just the 3 of us. It was Jonathan Fluck, it was myself, and it was my assistant at the time, Casey Riley. And
That's impossible. Furlong is dead.
the thing was lit very minimalistically. The lights that are in there, I had these 1,000-watt work lights just kind of pointed at the walls, and
We don't know.
we were in the basement of the house, which was like an old boiler room, like the walls were falling apart. It was absolutely perfect for Matthew's hovel in the desert. Even though there is a power box in the shot, obviously a fuse box in the shot.
We were able to recover
But
Furlong's
it really worked well. I mean, that house was just unbelievable because it had really tall ceilings. We were able to get all the green screen shots. Went in the basement and filmed out there.
Who else was on that transport?
So we really just kind of hammered this out in one day.
Fantastic. The gang's all here. So who's responsible for this?
We don't know. Like I said, information is scarce.
So what do you want from me?
Senator James.
There's the fuse box I was talking about. I remember a lot of things were going wrong during this scene. There was mice in the corner squeaking at one point. A light fell over. Some kind of heater or something went on. We had to shut off.
And he believes in the Rangers' cause.
And actually, in some of these shots, you can actually see the work lights.
Whenever I heard it. And what's he offering me in return for my services?
He's offering you anything you want. You want off this rock?
Remember that metal crate was just sitting there in the corner. It was just so perfect. It was just kind of there.
I kind of like it here.
I think it's an old milk crate that you used to put milk bottles in.
Besides, you got the Alliance. Why don't you go ask them for help?
Because the Alliance is dying, Matthew. The principles of our once
Yeah, there was a lot more about the Alliance and how crooked the humans had become. And again, a lot of it got cut out because of time and the fact that it was just, I made changes to other parts of the story. I mean, script-wise, there were probably about 136 scripts written revisions written for this episode alone, for this chunk of episode.
So, will you help us or not?
It's one of those things when you're learning how to be a writer and a director and a filmmaker
I'm sorry, Phineas, I can't help
that you have to rewrite so much.
We will get you your freedom.
I'm retired, remember? I have all the freedom I require.
You took an oath to protect the people of New Arcadia. You have a duty, goddammit! Or have you forgotten that?
Don't lecture me about
And I
oaths
totally
duties,
mess up
Professor.
this line.
I fought my war. 10 years of nothing but pain, misery, and nightmares to last me a lifetime. And nothing to show for it. No. You go home and you tell your senator he can wipe his own ass. I'm through being his puppet. Just leave me alone.
Matthew,
Batman
don't be a
cape whip.
fool here. It's a very generous offer the senator's making you. I think you should consider it.
I trust you know the way out.
This is one of my favorite shots. This is actually Casey going handheld, and she just did such a great job. I mean, the framing is great. It's just such an interesting shot.
Means something to you. But now you walk away as though it never meant anything at all. Come to think of it, you took 2 vows, didn't you?
I remember in the blooper reel, you'll see I had a little problem with the gun on a couple of frames.
Take care of yourself, Matthew. That's what you've always been best at, isn't it?
Phineas. Beginning my best. If she'll accept it.
Dramatic turn.
Look, Matthew, there's one
I have
more thing
no
you
idea
should
why I
know.
did that, but I just thought it was so cool. I left it in.
Admiral Zen was in command of the frontier when it fell.
And magically, I'm all the way on the other side of the room.
Last-minute command change.
Yeah, we didn't think too much about where we were, where we're coming from. And as you can see in the shot, there's the 1,000-watt light work light. But it kind of works for the scene, so I kind of just left it.
Last reports we had, he was being held captive on
And
site
his
of
spacesuit is all a
A
mess.
rescue team is mobilizing even now as we speak.
It does look pretty good.
Still not too late.
It does kind of hold up.
We all need you, Matthew.
Professor.
You know, when I came
Totally
here, I
dubbed
thought I'd
over
find
this.
a hero, but I was wrong.
I didn't like the way he said it, so that's completely a dub.
You have yourself a good life, Matthew.
The start of that is completely a dub. That is actually my BlackBerry that he's talking into. It's interesting the way I did that neck crack. There was no actor in there. I had to actually set up a music stand and put the costume on the music stand and the head on a styrofoam head and, try to finagle it because, again, I couldn't find another actor. Also, if you'll notice, you probably won't notice, but the Dune creature is also me. When the Dune creature is beating up Jonathan, that's me doing the stunt work. Because we forgot to shoot that with Jonathan. And then you see the sand crawlers and the green and how they're disappearing because, green on green. I think I did a pretty good job keying them back. And it's the exact same shot. And that is my friend Tom, who is a New York City actor who actually recorded that himself and sent it in to me. It was great. Now, if you'll notice from the original version, this is different music. And now we're going to go into a brand new part of the show. This is actually the teaser for the next episode, but I decided to include it on this DVD. And you'll see a dramatic increase in special effects and camera. I think one of the shots at the end is actually a DSLR shot. This was all shot with a Canon HG10. I had 2 of them, and a 50mm wide angle lens. Ah, the church in Stamford. This is incredible church in Stamford that we filmed at. And you'll see Dacron is a girl, female now. And that Buckethead right behind her is about 3 weeks pregnant. Uh, Nobody knew at the time. But that church in Stamford was absolutely beautiful. Paul's, his father was a deacon at the church. And there's Ian. Again, I could not find actors, and Hillary, who's playing Casey Carew, who's playing Dacron, is actually was actually my costumer. But I couldn't find another actor, so I said, you know what? Guess what, Hillary? It's you. So she became Dacron, and she got all into it. And then Ian was a mutual friend of ours, and I knew that he had some acting experience. With Furlong, I originally wanted somebody more Shakespearean. I wanted a cross between like Skeletor and Shere Khan. You know, I wanted somebody classically trained. And it was really interesting when you have an idea in your head and you want a certain actor, and you get an actor who just does something entirely different, and it's great, but it's not what you had envisioned at all. But he does such a great job with it, and it's so unique and different that I just kind of let him run with it, and he did such a great job. And I remember I struggled with this for a while, going back, like, maybe I'll refilm it with a different actor, maybe I'll just dub in my voice. But now that I've put this away for a while and I've come back, it's really a very Nicolas Cage performance, which absolutely works. It's interesting, and it's something I would have never thought of doing. But I think it's really interesting for the character. It's a contrast. It's a contrast with Matthew. If you'll notice, Admiral Zen is really short because that's also played by my friend Stephanie, who was talking about the pregnant Buckethead behind Dacron before, and the very tall guard is Paul again. We had to use crew. It was a very interesting day of shooting because the crew would go and they'd do crew duties. I'm like, okay, quickly throw somebody in a costume and put them on film. I remember the Bucketheads originally were going to be Paul and his wife Sandra, but Sandra was very pregnant at the time, and the purple robes that Hillary had gotten for us were very tight. And she's like, no, let me try the costume. And let's just say that baby was making an appearance. So we had to switch it to my photographer and our web designer and my friend Stephanie, who was there. And that's actually me behind the camera doing the voice while Stephanie kind of moves her head like a Power Ranger, very Darth Vader-esque. And that is the magnificent chair we built. And the chair was funny because I built the chair originally, and it just looked like the Land of Lego chair. It was like powder blue and had like these red things that really didn't look menacing at all. And Mike and Jeff and Paul came in and completely helped me rebuild the chair to look far more menacing and really look right. So, look, doors. They really just came in and did an incredible job on the chair, and it just ended up looking great on film. So. And if you'll notice his costume, his arm gauntlets are sewing needle holders, and we use gym flooring for his arm pads, and I think the chest plate is from the dollar store. So, low budget filmmaking, ladies and gentlemen. You'll never find a better place to shop than at the dollar store, than at Dollar General. And he totally messed up the line, so that doesn't make any sense. But we were really pressed for time at the end there. But I did get them out on time. And this is kind of a homage to Masters of the Universe when Skeletor is talking to Eternia. I must have redone these special effects like a gazillion times. So. But, in the end, it all came out. I mean, the church was beautiful. That DSLR shot. And, yeah. So that's it. That is the first episode of Ranger 7 the series, and we hope you've enjoyed this commentary. I think it came out beautifully, especially toward the end. It's amazing how much from where I started to where I ended, how much I had learned and how much I had grown. And hopefully we'll continue the series and we'll continue to grow. And the next episode, if we get to do it, will look spectacular. So thank you for buying the DVD and supporting us. And we look forward to making more of these in the future. Thanks a lot. Thanks for stopping by.